Hello and welcome back. I hope you guys had an opportunity to take a look at the previous video, which kind of gives a synopsis of what we are going to be discussing. Today's video is about accepting diagnosis. I'm going to go through my own personal story about what happened, my timeline, hospital stays, finding doctors, testing medication, and then finally the main point of what was so important for me in accepting diagnosis was telling the world. And that is so huge. So definitely watch until the end because I really want you guys to hear that. So what happened to me? Most people get diagnosed with a bipolar disorder when they're in their late teens and early adult years. That did not happen to me. I was diagnosed later in life and in my late 20s after a series of events. That series of events was I lost my job. Now, people lose jobs every day. I've changed jobs, I've moved out of state, I've moved cross country, but it never changed me like this. This was different. I didn't feel like myself. I could not bounce back. And weeks turned into months, and it scared me, and I reached out to people, and they didn't know how to help. They didn't understand. They were like, well, Christian, I don't understand. You're Christian. What's going on? Like, snap out of it. Man up. Do what you got to do. Well, sadly, that led a few months later to me becoming extremely suicidal, and then finally standing at the edge of a bridge, ready to jump. Luckily, someone drove by and called the police and said, someone out here does not look safe. And that police officer talked me down and took me to the hospital where I could get some help. It took 3 hospitalizations for me to become diagnosed as a bipolar 1 disorder. It was frustrating, it was tough. I did not like the way some of the psychiatrists spoke to me, or they were haughty, kind of condescending about things. But I finally met a doctor, the doctor who diagnosed me actually, who was so kind, patient, and listened and explained everything. One of the major things that I was concerned with when I was told I'm going to have to take medication, and quite possibly I'm going to have to take medication for the rest of my life in order for my moods to be managed and controlled due to the chemical imbalance that's in my brain. My brain doesn't produce certain chemicals that I need to handle and process stress. I don't want a medication that alters and changes who I am. With my profession and my life, I need to be myself. And I didn't want a medication to alter that, which I've seen in the past. He explained every side effect, every medication. We tested things, we changed things. Finally, we found a mix that we thought worked well, and that it needed to be coupled with therapy. I'm going to talk about therapy on a whole nother video because therapy was something I was so unwilling to accept at the beginning. However, later on, when I did accept therapy, it was life-changing. We're going to talk about that later. The final part that I really want to spend the most time on today is what I've labeled telling the world. One day, I decided, this is not a private illness. This is not something that is quote-unquote nobody's business, because it was affecting my daily life and the people around me were being affected, and I was starting to be judged as a different person or a changed person. There was something that happened to me that I don't want to talk about a lot today because it needs its own episode, I believe. But I had someone who I was reaching out to support for, and they asked me, so isn't it true that you tried to kill yourself? And my response was yes, hoping that this was leading to something positive. And their response was, well, what do you want me to do? What are we supposed to do about it? And that made me quickly realize that I needed to make some serious changes. So one of the changes I decided to do was, as hard as it was after that type of interaction, right, from someone who knew that, was to openly tell people that I have a bipolar disorder. The first responses that I got were astonishment, like, no, not you, I don't believe that, you're not crazy. And I was kind of like flabbergasted by it, like, well, who on God's green earth would say, hey, I've got this, mental illness that already has a stigma to it, so let me just go around and be cool and say that. And after a while, people realized that I was serious. That was a very short period of time. In the big scheme of things, I have grown my support system from here to here, and every day it grows more and more. How did that happen? Well, by owning my illness, by accepting it and telling the world, I grew my support system. I grew my accountability with people, not just with myself. If you all out there who suffer from mental illness or have someone very close to you that does know that some days they can do things, we can do things for ourselves. I'm taking my medication today because I want to feel good. I want to have a good day. I'm going to therapy today because I want to grow in my self-awareness. I want to manage the stressors that are going on in my life in a productive and positive way. And there are days when you don't want to do any of that. And there are days where sometimes you say, I'm doing it for my children. I'm doing it so I don't lose my job. I'm doing it for my spouse because I love them. I'm doing it for my God or my faith. And then there are days where I have benefited from, where I know that this support system that has manifested itself to me, that I've been blessed with, they're expecting me to be healthy. I said that I'm going to have a successful life despite having this diagnosis, despite having a mental illness, despite the stigma that is tied to it. I'm going to live successfully. And so on days where I really don't want to do everything that I need to do to stay healthy, it's because I have grown my support system and my accountability so much, it keeps me on my toes. And it's so beautiful to not feel like I have to hide. Or when I take a break, people don't think I'm flaking on them, or I just don't want to hang out with them, or I don't like them, but they're saying, oh wow, no, Christian's taking time for himself to be healthy. And I recently did that where I had to take a week off. I really wasn't feeling well. My employer was amazingly supportive. My coworkers, my team, my friends, everyone was so supportive. And so me taking that time off, where in the past I felt like a jerk, I felt like, why can't I just man up? Why can't I just pull myself up by my bootstraps? Those negative feelings that are totally unproductive never existed. And I felt support. And anyone with a mental illness, or even if you don't have a mental illness, we're humans. How important, how satisfying is having support. And that's what I have when I accepted my diagnosis. And I started telling the world, I have support. Now, I lost so many people. Topic for another day. But I have gained so much more than I ever could have imagined, by accepting it and by telling the world. It also lets people know. I remember I made a post on Facebook one day about, it was a mental health article, and it was like one of the first times it was on my personal page, and I said, oh yeah, this is so tough, I can totally relate, having a bipolar illness. And someone wrote me a message, and I can't remember if they did it publicly or if they sent it to me on Facebook Messenger, but they said, Christian, if someone as fly and awesome as you can live and deal with this illness and still have the life that you have, my hat is off to you. I will never forget that comment. It was life-changing. It encouraged me to just own it and be myself. Thank you for that. I know that I sent you a private message, but I'm publicly saying thank you for that message. And they told me that they knew someone who had a family member who was recently diagnosed as bipolar, and they were really going through some really tough times. And it was really tough when you're trying to figure out the illness, accept the diagnosis. It's intense. And because it's a mental illness, there are behavioral side effects that people don't understand, and it can be really rough. So I was so glad that I was able to be an encouragement to them to say, hey, you can totally do this. And that's really the point of this channel. That's really the point of my blog on Facebook. It is about, you can do this. We can do this. We can accept this. We can support people. We can have fantastic careers. We can be awesome professionals. We can have successful relationships, friendships, if we accept it and we own it and we find out a way to be authentic. So I'm so glad you guys took the time to watch this. Please like, share, and comment. I will gladly talk to you guys. Send me an email. If you want me to talk about something, I want to talk about it. I'll add it to my list. I'll put my list to the side and talk about what you want to talk about. We can even talk on the telephone if you just feel like you need some support. You need someone who understands. I am here. And that is the whole point of me doing this, is so that all of us can be successful. All of us can put a new light and a new face to mental illness so that the stigma goes away. Again, please like, share, and comment. And I look forward to talking to all of you again very soon in the near future. Take care.